Yeah.
And you posted it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yep.
Ready? Good morning. Special thank you to all the sponsors and Sadrim, Reb Nachman and Reb Zeitlin and Reb Zvi, Im Hemkan, Kulam Kam. And a special thank you to my Rebbe Reb Chaim Kramer for everything. We're still in Torah Chaf Dalet in Tinyana in Mitzva Gedola Liyos B'Simcha, and it's not Stam B'Simcha, it's Tamid. And Rav Nachman doesn't mince his words. He means every word that he writes. It's carefully calculated, which means that every single part of this statement requires of us to take extremely seriously. And he tells us, the obvious sabotage of Simcha Tamid is going to be Marashchora and Atzvus. And that's going to require on our part Hiskabrus, that we are going to be a Gever. Gever is someone who is in control. Hakovesh et Yitzray, that's called Ezu Gibor. So that means I'm in control of my mind, because that's what the Yetzer really is. We mentioned a few times term Memtes, the Yetzer Hara Hem HaMachshavas Ra'is. So we're talking about being aware. That's really where it starts, because control is a bit of a strong word, but it's aware of my mind, aware of the thoughts, aware of the possible pop-ups, and be aware that when a thought is actually in the category of Mara Shchera, Atzvus, Daiga, all the names that we have for the Yetzer Hara, which we're going to actually look up briefly. Rav Nachman has his own list of different names and gives us one at the end. Korach HaMadameh, the power of the Hadimion is another name of the Yetzer Hara. But for me to be able to be Mekayim, just the first two lines of this Torah, I actually have to be aware of what thoughts are sabotaging my mind. Complaint is probably the biggest, because that's actually, we're going to look at that, not today. A complaint is probably the biggest sabotager, because ultimately every single midah ra, every machshava ra, actually really when you peel away its label, it comes out really it's a complaint. I'm complaining about something or someone or a matzav or my past, and that's bringing me down. So we mentioned last week there are three zones. Zone number one is what happens to me. Zone number two is how I then process it and get into it and react to it. And that's where the Marashchora resides. Marashchora, Atzvus, complaining, Ka'as, Kina, Natira, Nakama, Sinna. When I allow the zone one to affect me, whatever just happened to me, whoever I interfaced with, whatever happened in the marriage, at work, with this particular kid, when I get into zone two, where I start letting those thoughts, the Marashchora thoughts, kina, anger, all those, that's where I am going to get trapped. It's literally a web. I guess I don't mean it as a pun, but it's fascinating that what Rav Nachman tells us is that the Korach HaMadameh is the new name we have to give the Yetzer Hara, thank you, because we're now in the last stage of the Yetzer Hara, who's exhausted all seven names, and Rabbeinu Zal, who conquered all seven, he's the one who is telling us we now have to focus on the new strategy of the Yetzer Hara, and that is Korach HaMadameh, Korach HaDimyon, the amazing ability in the imagination of my mind to actually pull myself down. Be scared of world events, be scared of what's taking place in my own household. As the very last Mishnah in Soita warns us of the Simanim before Mashiach, the very last Mishnah at the end starts giving us a list of all the members of my household. Ben Minabel Av, a child will not just, he'll denigrate his father with nibble pair. Bas Kama Le'ima, Kala Al Chamoisa, Oivei Anshe Beisai. Really? No, Iran. Am I real? No. The real is Oivei Anshe Beisai. So it could be taken as a Mishnah that is warning me of the terrible things that are happening, but really it's giving me the solution. Because the very fact that I know Anshe Beisai might be my real enemies, and where's that taking place? Over here. What am I thinking about my wife? What am I thinking about my children? What am I thinking about my in-laws, my children-in-law, etc., etc.? That is where I operate. And the Mishnah itself, which I think stims perfect with Rabbeinu Zal, ends off, Al mi lanu l'hishayin. Who can we rely on? And Hashana is an interesting type of reliability, because Mish'an means that when you remove the item I'm being Mish'an on, I will fall. That means I've got total smicha on that item. It's not leaning. That's not what Mish'an. Mish'an means I'm completely reliant. Al mi lanu l'shayin ein lanu. Al mi l'shayin el avinu shabashamayim. We only have avinu. So we need to really get clear. I need to know who is the atzvus, the marashkara, and I need to fight that with all my mind. That's what koicha really means, because that's all I've got. We're not talking about physical koicha. We're not talking about political clout. We're not talking about financial strength. We're not talking about influence on people. We're talking koicha really means over here. That's where we're fighting this battle. Rabbeinu Zal mentioned it. We quoted last week that Rav Nachman says that Ikar HaYisurin is taking place over here. It's taking place in my mind, and therefore it's a chesaron of my das when I'm actually experiencing the Yisurin. Because as far as HaKadosh Baruch Hu is concerned, it's actually all good. That might sound like a huge midas chasidus, but actually we're going to maybe see today Shulchan Aruch expects of that of me. Chayav Adam levarach al hara k'shmevarach al hatoiva. The same simcha. Le'olam yadam ragil loyma kol da'avid rachaman atav avid. Hashem wants me to get out of zone 2, go right to zone 3. Get out of zone 2, and if I'm going to be really smart, the moment zone 1 hits me with the marriage, with the difficult mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, it doesn't make a difference what or who. It makes no difference, because the Olam Hazeh is just got an amazing motley of different colors of people and in circumstances that are hitting me all the time. Makes no difference. The moment I'm aware, this is what's happening right now to me in zone 1, skip zone 2. And that is not denial of the negative. That is reality. Because Hashem wants me to realize that this black spot, the Marash Chaira, the Atzvus, the Daiga, the Pachad, the Yira, everything that is negative is contained in that spot. And when I pay attention to it, what happens to the spot? Water the weeds, gets bigger. And when I pay more attention, water the weeds, gets bigger and bigger, until the whole page is taken up by the black spots and there's hardly any white left. I can't see the Nekudas Tovos. And Rav Nachman is telling us, get fixated on the Nekudas Tovos. It can turn around the Russia Gomor. That's extreme. But that's what he says. Reish Pei Beis, most famous probably of all his Torahs. Get out of here. Don't get stuck in here. This is not where I belong. It's not where any of us belong. And if the news of today is not enough to remind us that Hashem is taking care of us with all the missiles that have been fired at us, and now a different nation is destroying the nuclear. I mean, where does this all? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the show, and therefore there's much more reason for me to be besimcha than for me to fall into daiga, worry, anxiety. Even though it's a huge industry, and it's a celebration of analyzing what that person said and did, and now string the dots together so that you can now, and I've said it before, please be merciful me for saying again, it's never too late to have an unhappy childhood. If you look deep enough, you're going to see how irresponsible your parents were and how abusive, might have been very subtle, but ultimately it was traumatic for you, abusive. You're scarred. And before you know it, I get so stuck in here. I get so stuck. And then, how am I ever going to continue my marriage? How am I going to continue my relationships? How am I ever going to get married? How am I going to stay married? How am I going to get married again? Because I'm damaged. Get into Hashem's reality. Hashem is good. Oh, you want to regret something? So we're going to see that today, Be'ezrat Hashem. Says Rav Nachman, only go into regret when you're in Moichen de Gadlus. We'll look at that very carefully. It's a Torah in Sichas Saram. We're going to look at that. It's very important. Kuf Yud Beis. I think of Kiev. Kufyud base, make it just a silly association. But get into Moichin de Gadlus because, and he associates that with Simcha, because it's in a makom of Simcha, which he also calls Olam HaCherus. That's zone 3. Oh, you're in zone 3? You can look at zone 2. You can look at what happened and analyze it, because I'm not going to get stuck there because I'm in zone 3. Oh, you're staying in zone 3 and now you're looking as a tourist, almost like as an audience of what happened. But it's not happening to me now, and I'm not getting stuck in the memory and reliving the memory and and bring up all the emotions of it. What am I doing? What's all this drama? So we're living in an age that is such a brilliant dimion, and there's a pill for everything. And Rav Nachman is saying, the only pill you should be taking is Simcha, because that is the cure-all. Okay, so I did mention last week that based on this, really, mental illness is what I'm thinking in the moment, and that's what Rav Nachman talks about, Ruach Shtus, and he says it many times. Ein Adam is quoting from Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Gimel. Ein Adam oive avera ela imken nichnas boy Ruach Shtus. Where does that Ruach Shtus come from? So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the Marashah talks about it. We mentioned, I think, in Daf Yud Amud Beis in Makos. But Derech she'adam roitze leilech moilichin oisai. The direction a person roitze is a very strong language. Actually, meaning he must go. He really wants to go in that direction, no matter what. Moilichin oisai. They accompany him. Who are the they? The malachim we create. We create malachim with every thought, every word, every action, and they are the ones that we've created who are pushing me in the direction I want to go in. So I want to fight oversleeping, so I create malachim with that rotzen. I want to fight taivas achila. I want to give up on myself. I'm creating despair malachim that push me in that direction. I create that destiny by myself. So comes along Rabbeinu Zalman Rav Nachman tells us a person will only do an Aveira, which makes no sense. It's insanity. That's why I call it Ruach Shtus. It's insanity. To do an Aveira in front of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that's mad. In front of the king, right in front of him, go against what he just told me to do, that is insanity. So how do I act insane? Ein Adam Aveira ela imkem nichnas boy Ruach Shtus. Where did the Ruach Shtus come from? From the momentum I created in my own thoughts and actions and words. So Ruach Shtus is insanity. That's really, I guess, one way to describe it. And the moment we have a hiru of teshuvah, that's called sanity. So I am constantly, every single day, mentally ill and mentally healthy, because it's up and down. I can get myself, Has v'shalom, into a state of permanent mental illness where I need actual therapies and medicines, but that doesn't happen overnight. That comes from weeks, months, and years of thinking and speaking and acting in a way that I'm down and depressed until I'm so convinced I can't even hear the light. I can't see anything. Or this is completely covered in black. It's all black, mara shchara, and it's bitter. So Rabbeinu Zal gave us Anpin Chashuchim. These are different names for the Yetzer Hara, the Sitra Achra, Mara Shchera, Avodas Ililim, Atzvus, Baldava. We mentioned Baldava. Just look at the words. It's so revealing. Baal is an owner or in control. Like Baal Abayit, he controls the house. Baal is an owner. Dava of a word. He is a master orator. The Baal Dava, the Yetzer Hara, when he uses arguments to persuade me, I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm a failure. What's the point in trying? I've tried so many times, it doesn't work. And before you know it, I have fallen into being persuaded. That Baal Dava is huge. And Rav Nachman says, and this is in Torah 23, paragraph 1, in the first chelik of Likutei Moharan, he calls the all of these a bechina of misa. I'm dead when I'm stuck in daiga, marashchera, atzvus, because the full gamut, the full accounting of how long I live is not how many years my body is on planet Earth before it's buried in the ground. The full calculation of how long I lived is how much of my thoughts are about Avas Hashem, Avas Yisrael, Dveikus, talking to Hashem, His Beidas, His Chaskus, picking ourselves up again and again, the Kudos Tovos in ourselves and in others. That's what's going to be calculated as how long I lived. the quality and quantity. So a person could have lived 100 years, but when he arrives, there's a calculation. You only live 5 years? No, I was 100. On my grave it says from 1929 to 2029 I lived 100 years. Yeah, but we are counting what was going on inside my thoughts. So it comes along Rabbeinu Zal, and he calls all of these are bechin of Misa. In the words of Chazal, Perek Beis, Mishnah Yud Aleph in Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Ayin Hara. I have an Ayin Hara on people, on things, on places, on other people's possessions. V'yetzer hara, my negative thinking. V'sinas habriyos, and hatred towards people, creatures. Motzin es adam min ha'olam. Now it's not yotzi, it's not will take, it's happening now. My mind is being removed from this world. So my body's here, but my mind isn't, and so I'm actually wasting the only asset I have, which is my mind. And with it, I'm wasting my time. Those are my greatest assets. And to reinforce this, Rebbe Lazar Hakapar Omer, this is in Perek Dalet, Mishnah Chaf Aleph, Hakina v'hataiva v'kavod motzin es adam min ha'olam. It's taking me out of my world right now, because instead of me thinking about what's good, ayin tov, instead of being instead of the kina that I'm experiencing, I should be experiencing, I'm so happy for you. This is what Hashem blessed you with. Instead of me going there, I'm stuck in kina and taiva and kavod, and I'm wasting my life. I'm wasting my mind. I'm wasting my time. It's my greatest asset. Rav Nachman then adds number 7, and we're still in Chaf Gimel this time. Chaf Gimel in the first chelik, paragraph 5. Nothing diminishes my health more than daiga. Worry is a killer. Fear, anxiety, and he says, Kol hachmei harofim agree to this. I'll read it to you in the Hebrew. Ki ein dava shemafsid hachiyus k'moi hadaiga v'ha'atzvus. Nothing will diminish my physical health more than worry and has v'shalom, depression, anxiety. So it's in my hands, or it's in my mind. I've got the power to let go of the thinking. The moment I realize I'm in zone 2, move to zone 3. How do I get there? We're going to talk about it there's lots of strategies, but the most obvious starting point is the awareness I'm in zone 2. And even though I think, this is Latoelis, okay, let's see what happens in Latoelis. If after the conversation I feel simcha, and not resentment, and more anger, and more bitterness, and more natira towards the person I've just been talking about, if I'm besimcha, that's a decent simon that I'm going in a good direction. But if I come out with more anger and bitterness and resentment, that or worse, jealousy and desire for nakama, that's a clear indication that I'm still in zone 2 and that there's no toelis to it. The only toelis is when we're in zone 3 and look as a tourist at zone 2. Because I'm not attached, I'm not stuck in there. Now you can look at that. That I think might be in the mashal that we learned previously in Torah Chav Gimel. You're in the dance and you're in the simcha, whether it's a chasna, but it doesn't make a difference what's the goyim, but you're in a simcha chasna is a very, I think, easy one for us to relate to. And in that simcha, you can be chata, you can snatch someone who's standing there looking kind of not part of the simcha and bring him in, and within seconds he's dancing and smiling and singing. Or as the Torah brings over there, once you're in zone 3 of simcha, now you can even visit the Mara Shchora and the Atzvus and bring it into the simcha because you're detached from it. So that I think would fit what we're saying over here. Nothing is worse than daiga and Atzvus ki yadua l'hachmei harofim. As he says, this is well known to the Hachmei HaRoifim. Always put a dagish there, because he didn't say Roifim. In lesson number 72, it's a very famous Torah. I would love, maybe at some point after we've done Chaf Hey, maybe we'll look at number 72 in Tinyana. Rav Nachman calls the Yetzer Hara Ruach Shtus. He calls it Hacham Gadol. He's a huge Hacham Gadol Mikol HaOlam of the whole world. The Yetzer Hara is a Hacham Gadol, and Afal Piken Nikra Ruach Shtus, and he's still a Ruach Shtus. It's such an important to look at the words. Ruach means wind. we sometimes translate it spirit. As we know, the three parts of the soul that we are most frequently describing, neshama, nefesh, ruach. So it's interesting that the ruach part is what's coming from my mind, which is the neshama governing my mind. And ruach is really what goes through the pipeline when you're blowing, in the famous mashal of the Arizal, of how the neshama and the body combined. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachol blew from his lungs, Kaviyachol. Of course, Hashem has no lungs, but Kaviyachol, from his essence, Hashem blew be'apav into the nostrils of Adam, Nishmas Chaim. So he gives the mashal of a glass blower who's blowing through a tube, and the air that's blowing through, that ruach, is coming from the essence of the glass blower, from his lungs. So the neshama is blowing, so to speak, through my mind, which is choosing to speak, and I become a ruach memalala. So please be merkel. I know it's always translated as speaker, but I'm just going to go with the actual lashon. Ruach means wind. Memala from lashon malel, which actually means malel, means fill. So how do we talk? We fill the air in front of us, and the air molecules bang into each other, and that's how it creates sound. That's why in outer space there's no sound, there's no air. So you can scream and scream, no one can hear you. I always wonder about being I think I shared this with you. If I was in the forest and my wife is not there, and will she still be angry with me, whatever I say? The air molecules are and it's called vibrations. Everyone knows that musical instruments, they are vibrating. The strings are vibrating, and it's the sound that's vibrating off it into the air. And the echo is when it's not absorbed by carpet. It's and it bangs back to you, boomerangs back to you. That is sound. That's how sound works. So ruach is really ruach memala really means a wind filler. You're filling the air with wind, and that wind has sounds that come from the vocal cords and the mouth, with its brilliant combination between the teeth, the tongue, the lips, and the movements within the mouth actually articulate sound, so that now you can hear me speaking. So ruach shtus means foolish thoughts. That's what ruach starts off as a thought, and that's actually in last week's parsha. I don't think I quoted the exact, but when Moshe Rabbeinu vayiplu al paneihem vayomru kel elokei haruchais. Hashem is called kel elokei haruchais. Rashi says, what's kel elokei haruchais? Yodea machshavais. The ruach is referring to machshava. That's why Caleb was called. Hashem said ruach acheres haitzaboy. He had a different thought. So ruach is the mind, but it comes out as actually speech. So ruach shtus starts over here, and then I follow up with talking about this ruach shtus. He's a hacham gadol, evil. This is all in Torah Lamed Ayin base. He's called an evil. That's from the word evil. The other way around. Evil comes from the word evil, and the Rak says shtus. So it's all different words for shtus. Petty. Rav Nachman calls the Yetzer Hara petty. What's Radak say? Petty is someone who's easily persuaded. It's got such a small mind, doesn't take much to persuade them to do something, because they don't think it through. I think in English, I believe the word petty, someone's got a petty mind, so small mind, comes from petty over here as well. A petty is someone who's got a foolish mind. What's a foolish mind? He won't think for himself. When we get to God, Merchin to Katanus and Merchin to Godless, it becomes much more obvious that the language is revealing what the meaning of the words are. Meshuga, Radak says, it's inyana, you do it. Everyone knows a Meshuga is a crazy person, completely mad. Sichlus HaGadol, these are all words that Rav Nachman talks about giving names to the Yetzer Hara. When I've got foolish thinking, I'm making decisions based on a surface assumption of what this person is and said and did. There's so much more, and it's so easy to be done. Of course, if I just know that I don't have the picture, there's no way. Even this is my child I'm judging, and I think I know the picture. It's not true. It can be years later I find out this kid was bullied in school. This kid had a very bad Rebbe, didn't say it, and had a terrible year. I didn't understand that, and things went downhill from there. Sichlus gadol, Radak says seichel when it's with a sin. then it's referring to your mind. But when a samach, then it's referring to tipshus of the mind. The language he uses is tipshus. Muzahamim is all lashon of Rabbi Nachman in ayin base. Muzuhamim is the expulsion of toxicity from where it is, from its source. So, for example, sweat. In the case of Chava, she received the zuhama of the snake, whose complete kavana was pure taiva. There was no emes in that zivug. It was expelled from us when we came to Har Sinai. Unfortunately, with Chet Egel, we got it back. Leiv Arel. This is the lashon of Rabbeinu Zal. Leiv Arel really means a mind. It's an Arel. Arel we saw before. I know it's translated as foreskin. It doesn't really fit very well over here. But Arel is a lashon of miuta. That's what Radak says. It's extra. And for example, the foreskin is extra skin that has to be removed. The word extra, when it comes to Orlas Halev, is referring to the extra thinking that I get myself stuck in, and that's zone 2. Anger, rechilos, building my narrative of how bad this person is, or how bad the matzav is, or I can justify why I should be b'daiga. All that is just taking place in this language that Rav Nachman is helping me pay attention to. Extra thinking. Extra thinking is the worst. I'm just wasting my mind. Yetzahara ha'av hagashmi. Then he gives another name for the Yetzahara. Ha'av hagashmi. It's thick and it's megusham. Megusham really is physical, all from Geshem. Anything that I pay too much attention to in the physical world, like Rav Nachman used to say, was it eincooked vinegar? Is it noch besser? Something like that. One less paying attention to this world, one less look at this world is a little bit better. Because where's my mind supposed to be? So you can have tzaddikim walking around, that it doesn't matter who is talking to them, it doesn't matter what their matzav is, they see the good in everything because they only see Hashem. And any comments or questions you want to share? And the last one, he says, all of the above are dimyonis. A dimyon means it's my imagination. Korach hamadameh is that I've got the power to imagine. And it's the power of imagination which allows us that when we learn a lot of Torah, when you've got one piece of Torah, okay, that's one piece of information. But as soon as you learn a second piece of information, you can do something you couldn't do before. You can compare the similarities, contrast the differences. And now you begin what you might call ear, and you can start to mi'ayin in those differences. That's called bina, because bina is building, from the word ben, which is an extension of a parent. Even is a building block, a building stone. Even is made up of the first two letters av, last two letters ben, because av ben is the beginning of building, your extending of yourself. So the concept of bina is that one is extending one's understanding, because now you can compare and contrast, compare similarities, contrast differences. So the whole concept of Olam HaDimyon is that my mind gets captured by what I'm hearing, and I make associations with that news or information to other dimyonis that I've allowed my mind to entertain. And before I know it, I'm looking at this world as it appears to be, as opposed to through the filter of Hashem's Torah and mitzvahs, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is what Bina is. Bina is Medama Milsa Milsa, and this is very well known in Breslov, that a person can have an innocent conversation, and a Breslover who's listening to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, so to speak, sees something either from Sichas Haran or something from Likutim Ran, and turns it into a conversation of Sichas Chaverim. Because Rav Nachman was very, very good at that. Motzei Shabbos, he wanted to hear all the news, because it didn't matter what the news was, he could turn it into Torah. And even Lashon Hara, he said it's better you don't speak Lashon Hara, but he would turn it into something else completely. Because he wasn't listening to the Ra. There is no Ra. He was seeing the good in everything and everyone. So that is what Rav Nachman, I think, is preparing us for when Mashiach comes, and all of a sudden we'll have the das that there's no chesed and there's no gevura. It's not two separate entities. My wife's nice to me today, chesed. My wife's not nice to me, she's very angry with me, gevura. I'm getting along with my kid, chesed. Not getting along with my kid, gevura. Put on weight, gevura. Lost a bit of weight, chesed. Well, it doesn't make a difference what it is, but as long as I keep separating everything, so I've turned this world into Tov and Ra. And that was the Eitz HaDas, and Hashem says, no, when Mashiach comes, I'm going to show you it was all Das. Das is the perfect fusing of Gevura and Chesed. So I'm just sharing these are the lashon of Rav Nachman himself when he ends up in Torah 25 in the first chelik of Likutei Moharan, and he said after all the 7 names of the Yetzer Hara, we have to give a new one, Korach HaMadamer. And he quipped it, said it like almost on the side. Rav Nosson understood there was something much more there. So Rav Atiyah in his Perush, which is an excellent resource, he quotes the Korach HaMadamer on that term. I'm just quoting to you now in Chaf Hey, and it's in footnote number 111. So he quotes the Korach HaMadamer, Hatzal. Nira leramez al pi mash amru chachmeinu zal. This seems to be I'm going on what Rav Nachman says. The Yetzer Hara has a new name today. It's called Korach HaMadamer. It's the power of imagination. And you and I know that more than any other. I mean, there's people in this room who still remember. I don't know if you remember. I remember when there was black and white television. I remember when technology has advanced so quickly. There was no such thing as a cell phone. No such thing. A fax machine was huge breakthrough in technology. Amazing. Do you realize I can fax you? And then we've got beepers. Wow, I can be beeped anywhere. It's very annoying. So you and I will be laughing at that technology today because it's so pathetic. Maybe you can find those specimens in the British Museum or Natural History Museum, but what we have today, just touching without pressure, just touch the screen. Many times I can't even tell I touched the screen, but it seems that it reacted to my finger. I didn't sense that, and the sensitivity of your finger is quite strong because it has to be able to tell if something's hot. That's very, very important. And yet somehow this technology is so sensitive to almost you haven't touched it and it's already responded. So the Korach HaMadamer of being able to access movies, which is completely Korach HaDimyon, and even documentaries which are meant to be on facts of events, there's so much Dimyon there, and there's a lot of license that they take. When it comes to commercials and advertisements, that's a whole chochmah. That I'm very qualified to talk about. I've done thousands. I'm not sure about thousands, hundreds and hundreds of commercials for my father in the world of the advertising industry. And it is shocking that every single one is a pure lie. And they do it knowing that they might get sued, but it's worth it. Because by the time millions of people have heard the commercial against another product, even if you don't name the product, but it's understood from the way you're saying the brand, even though you're not saying the name, it's clear everyone knows what you're talking about. I did so many commercials like that as a kid and as a teenager. And it's all LM2 HaDimyon. They're selling lies. This fish stick, they call it fish fingers in England, has more, I'm trying to remember the actual words. Mummy, did you know that there's more protein in one fish stick, than a whole can of baked beans? The whole world in England knew baked beans is Heinz. Beans means Heinz, that was their whole thing. So everyone knew that you're referring to a can of baked beans. So within 3 weeks, we were sued by baked beans. We had to take the commercial off. They called me back in. Mummy, did you know there's more protein in one fish finger than 12 pork sausages? And everyone knows that in England, Wall's pork sausages are it's the brand that you go to, the first. So we get sued, we're called in again. This time we did it to farm eggs. Mummy, did you know there's more protein in one fish finger than there is in a whole dozen eggs, farm eggs? Now at that time, British farm eggs had gone bankrupt, and the government was taking it over. So by the time the government got around to suing, it may probably years, but the commercial will be out. So I said to my father, I don't remember, I was about 11 years old, Abba, how are they so stupid? They're paying me, it was not a lot of money, they're paying me, but they're paying me in my silly mind. Why are they wasting their money? Just get it right from the start. And said, no, you don't understand. It's worth the commercial to go out, because if they have to settle, the amount of money they'll be paying is a fraction of the profits they're making on these lies. It's all LM2 HaDimyon. It's such a LM2 HaDimyon. Our children are being sold on this every single day with commercials and advertisements. They're being sold that if I could only be as famous as this person, or a rock star like this person, or a singer like this person, I would have the popularity of this, I would be so happy. And the reality is these are the most unhappy people on planet Earth. There's nothing, it's all a Dimyon. We're living at such an incredible time that Rav Nachman really hit it. He doesn't need my extra, but he said we need to give it a new name. It's Korach Hamadameh. And Rav Nachman's eitzes are giving me the clarity, the filter, to put in over here, so that I look at the world not as what it really is, Olam HaSheker, Olam HaDimyan. And so I can see Hashem speaking to me through all these events. So, sharing with you here, Nira Laram is Alpi Mash Amrucham Kmenu Zal Sukkah Nun Beis. Shiva Shemosh Yesh Lo Yetzhara. There are 7 names for the Yetzhara. V'yadua liyodechein shem keneged hasheva midos de sitra achra. These 7 names of the Yetzhara, they correspond to the 7 levels of what's called the sitra achra, midos of the sitra achra. Kizelu mazeh asa elokim. Okay. Keneged shiva midos hanimsam ha'kedusha. The 7 lowest levels of the spheres, they are what's responsible for everything we experience in Olam Hazeh. Kemuvan kol zeh b'sifrei emes. Hine ad heina lo haya ba'olam ki im ha'aras ha'sheva midos ha'eleh. We only until now, till Rav Nachman said this about Korach and Dameh, we only have 7 midas of the spheres to deal with, going down from Tiferet, Hesed, Yesod, Gvura, Tiferet, Hesed, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus. Shehisigotam ha'shiva royim, al ken loy haya connected zeh ki im shiva koichos ha'yetzahara. So connected these 7. Rav Nachman says in Samach Gimel that when it's raining, as Panav Hashem, Ya'ir, He's shining on us, and it's really smiling. It's amazing. Every drop of rain is just bringing more blessing to the world. So you've got 7 names of the Yetzirah, and they connect the 7 spheres that deal with this world, all the midas of how everything interacts in this world. But from the moment Admor Zal Le'olam, that Rav Nachman came to this world, and he began to shine ulofia and spread alenu upon us, Hamidah Shminis. There's an 8th midah, Shihibina. Now that's really already in the Olam Hasa Elyonim, but that's where you start with Chesed, Keter, Chochmah, and Bina, and those are all pure Chesed. Ket is 100% unadulterated. And then you've got, after that, you've got Keter, Chochmah, and there's a very, very, very slight manifestation of Din, but Bina is where it actually interfaces with Olam Hazeh, where Din actually can be detected. So Rav Nachman is saying that now we are entering, before Mashiach comes, that we're entering that place just before Mashiach reveals himself. We're entering into Bina, where it's Kuloi Chesed with a little bit of Din. So Shehi Bina Ilah, and that's the elevated Bina. Shehi Siga B'Tachlis HaShleimus She'ein Shleimus Acharav. The Rav Nachman was Masik. He understood, comprehended fully what that Bina is. Al Kein Zelu Mazer Gavra Ve'atzma Me'oid Gam Hamidah Shminish Shel HaSitra Achra. So now the Sitra Achra, if Bina is coming down into this world, there has to be Zelu Mazer. There has to be a pure, perfect, constant, perfect balance of Bechira, and in order to counteract the fact that Hashem is bringing Bina into this world, where the Chesed is going to be overwhelming, but there's a little bit of Din there. Oh, what's going to happen next? The Yetzirah has to have a new manifestation, and what's that? Shehi Bechinas Medameh. That is the imagination. Ki Bina Tikdushahi Bechinas Mevin Dava Metoch Dava. V'zeh Mazeh Bina Tesitra Achra Hu Bechinas Medameh Dava LeDava B'Shav Hevel Ad Kan L'Shonei. So that's where he's quoting there, and then he quotes from Sir Safi Kodesh, Chelik Hey, Ois Kuf Ein Zayin. There's new editions, whatever, but that's the original 8 volumes. Sheva Shemosh Yesh Lo Yetzirah, Ra, Arel, Tameh, Soiner, Hater, Michshol, stumble makes us stumble. Even, that's referring to the mind that is like blocked. Tzifoni, hidden. Shu Keneged Hasheva Sfiros Tikdusha Shnechlanim. Zeh bazeh ad 49 shari kedusha shekenegdam hem 49 shari tuma. 49 levels of tuma, 49 levels of kedusha, and then I'm going to just close on what he says. So Nachman is the letters Mayach in the middle, Nachman, and the first and last letters spell Nun. So Nachman reached the 50th, and therefore he's able to give us the strength to stand up to Korach HaMedameh. And how do we do that? through learning his eitzes and understanding that this world is a brilliant dimyan, but it's the volume of that dimyan is being turned up before Mashiach comes, so that the incredible misinformation, disinformation, it used to be called the age of information, and now thanks to all the media, which I think is so interesting that media has those two Hebrew words in it, because it's like almost Hashem's hiding to tell you, it's just whose opinion? There are no opinions that matter in this world except Hashem's opinion. And through his tzaddikim amitim, through Chazal, that's what I'm supposed to be filling my mind with. Everything else is pure shtus. So comes along Rav Nachman and warns us that the Korach HaMedameh, that's what I've got to start everything I hear and see, I've got to be Medameh to Hashem's reality. Otherwise, when I get sucked into anger, sucked into kinna, sucked into netira, sucked into atzvus and marash chera and daiga, I will be spending time and money and getting entangled in relationships where only when I sit and learn in front of a sefer, I've got a chance of some sort of moment of sanity, but the rest of my day is completely belua. I'm immersed in nonsense. So Rav Nachman really wants us to kind of let go of that and realize zone 2 is not where I belong. I belong in zone 3. Movies is zone 2. The media is zone 2. Unless we're looking at the media very briefly and understanding how to turn that around. But Rav Nachman was very good at. AI is probably the ultimate sheker gamur. You can now. I had a 15-year-old kid I was working with who's got the software and he showed me he videoed his mum for 2 minutes. That's all it needs, and her mum was speaking for 2 minutes. That's all. The video captures every single movement in the face. Now there are over 5,000 different combinations of facial expressions you can make with the 46 muscles, and the intonation of the voice. It only needs 2 minutes of filming and of recording the actual voice, and then he could do this on his phone. You type in anything you want this person to say.
This became now very popular with all presentations in schools, and I actually last week played Afghan Sefer Torah, and it was the Nishmas's boy, and they did a presentation, and it was spooky, but they had an AI where this boy was now speaking, thanking everyone to come, the Nishmas himself. It was beyond spooky.
Yeah, spooky. So see, what's really amazing about that is you had to, I'm sure if I was in the audience, I'd have to keep reminding myself, he's actually not, this was not recorded because he's no longer here. So there would like be moments where I've got to check into, so what's reality? So this is the whole point. You've got MS and you've got sheker, and 99% sheker, and what 99% MS is 1,000% sheker. And that's what AI is. AI is 100% sheker, but it's able.
Back, right?
Sorry?
They bring Elvis back, right?
Yeah, all the different nincompoops. And it's entertaining, and it's a waste of the most valuable asset I own, which is my mind and my time. That's what life is: my mind and my time. I know for Kirov reasons, I was watching Star Wars with a kid a while ago. And it's interesting because I went to yeshiva in 1977, so I missed, and that's when Star Wars came out. So I never saw any Star Wars in my whole life. So now I'm watching episode 3, and right at the end, the person who passed away says to the guy, I can't even remember his name, who's now fighting against the Sitra Achra. He says, "The Force will be with you." I said, "Wow." The force, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who controls every atom in the universe, it's not just is with you, he will be with you right till the end, and there is no end. So I'm not confessing on publicly but sometimes you just got to get under the table in order to get someone from thinking they're a turkey. So here we got the tivers of this world are not only they're not being hidden anymore. Now the Supreme Court actually gives a stempel of approval to same-gender marriages. That's thank you to Obama, Yamach Shema. Excuse me, I know it's on here, but Just want to be. I don't want to be a faker. Newspapers, they're not telling us the truth, and the news is always missing information. It's one reporter, and you look on Yeshiva World News. They're borrowing from all the other newscasters. They're just making it a little bit of a kosher because there's no other images that should be disturbing from eyes. But from mind, it's not reliable. So it's 100% inaccurate, unreliable, and you're wondering. So which one is the truth? So this all comes to the fact that Hashem wants me to use my mind for good. And Mitzvah Gedola Simcha, the greatest good is to be living inside Simcha. Who's Simcha? Being entertained by entertainment? No. Real Simcha is I know I'm giving Nachas Ruach to Hashem when I put on tzitzis, when I look at my tzitzis, when I close my eyes where I shouldn't look, where I'm saying a kind word instead of Lashon Hara. I'm building myself, I'm giving Nachas Ruach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Arevna, please make your Torah sweet in my mouth. Say it a few times till I get to the third word, Hashem. Arevna, please make yours, because I know it is sweet, but help me to know it's sweet. I want to taste its sweetness and not get stuck in Marash Chora. When's the Shiur over? When will we finish the stuff? I'm tired already. I want to get... Hashem wants me to be stuck in Simcha, get stuck in Simcha. And Rav Nachman knows that it's a mitzvah of tamid, but the biggest problem is I've got to be miskaber and laharchik, push away, distance the atzvus and the marash chora. But I've got to know who's the marash chora. Well, that's what we went through the whole list of mitzvahs of the mind, because once I know, hey, anger is marash chora. It's a slippery slope. Kina is natira, that's big. It's really one of the biggest. Kina and Natira and Nakama, they're huge. But I'll quote Bezrat Hashem, the Rambam and Mesilas Yesharim, who unpack what's Kina and Natira and why it's so bad. But these are all things that lead to my outputs. Natira is resentment. It's usually translated bearing a grudge, which is good Old English. But Rashi, right at the top of Chaf Gimel, Amud Aleph in Yuma, so he says, where it's discussing Natira, the Gemara is discussing Natira over there. So he said, Natira is Shomer, that's what Natira means. Shomer, Davara, Beliboy, Velo Hesech Medasoi. He will not let go of it. He's guarding it. Now, Shomer means guarding, but it also means remembering, because that's how we guard a mitzvah, by remembering the mitzvah. That's why Adim, a person can't get oynish unless Adim gave a warning within 3 seconds, Shalom Alecha Rebbe, within 3 seconds of the Aveira, to warn the person what he's doing. He can get oynish for, because it's an Aveira, whatever the Aveira is. Why? Because you're reminding me of something that right now, I'm in Hesach Hadas, I'm just so angry with this person, I want to kill him. I want to hurt him, I want to hit him, etc. So it all fits in perfectly. Shmira, many times, unfortunately, we translate it as guarding, which is not, it's not bad, but what is the guarding? It's remembering. Shmir some mitzvahs is remembering the mitzvahs. So Rashi points out, Natira is remembering the davara, the bad thing that person said or did. And what we're going to see in a few moments, hopefully, we're going to see...
How do we control our memory to not remember something negative? I mean, just take on something positive in our thoughts.
So this is something I really want to jump into. I actually have the notes for today. I'm not sure if I'll get to it, but the main thing is that when Rabbeinu Zal tells us to look for the Nekudas Tovos and to be B'simcha Tamid, that means I've got to have strategies. If Nosson Zal brings this out, I've got to have strategies for dealing with when the Daiga pops up in my mind, when the hatred or the Natira. I can't erase the memory. That's, I think, part of your question. Right. But what I can do, and this is where Bechira always exists, in my next thought. I may not control the pop-up thought because it could have been associated just by mentioning that person's name. Or someone said something unkind about them, and that reminded me, yeah, I had an experience like that. And that's what pops up in my mind. And what Hashem wants me to do with that thought is ignore it, move on to something else. And that is how I actually serve Hashem, b'chol levavcha, b'shnei yitzarecha, even with my Yetzirah. How do I serve?
Still there, you're just putting it aside.
Yeah, I'm ignoring it. Move on. You're right, I can't necessarily erase the trauma and the scarring that's in my memory, but I don't have to talk about it. I've got the most extreme examples of that, both from the Holocaust, but even more modern, where Nashim have been abused countless times. and then when they go to the counseling, which I'm describing here, which I call it one thought therapy, to discover that the only place I can experience what happened to me is by remembering it. And when I remember that terrible thing that was done to me, I give life to the memory. But I don't make it actually happening now. I'm giving life to a memory. And with that memory, I realize I'll never be able to trust any man. Therefore I'll never be able to get married. And if I do that, how will I be able to? And then before you know it, I'm spiraling with all this. But what happens in what I'm describing is the moment a person is aware that the memory is exactly that. It's a memory. A memory can't kill anyone. It's happened. It's the past. Ava. It's gone. It's history. The only place it now exists is in my mind as a memory. And when I get it up as a pop-up, what should I do? Enter zone 2 for a long time. Okay, I can't afford it for such a long time because it's extremely expensive, like $300 an hour. So I'll do 2 double sessions a week. Okay, I'll mortgage my house now. But guess what happens next? The spillover of that is that if I don't have a professional health practitioner who's going to help me focus, what's good about what you went through? Nothing. What do you mean? It's a stupid question. What do you mean? What's good? So. Well, is it happening now? No, of course not. Why am I here? I'm trying to get out of this. So what's good about it? Are you happy it happened? No, of course I'm not happy. What are you talking about? So, are you happy that you're not happy about it? Help find something that's good. Are you more cautious, more careful, moving forward? Is everyone like that? Are you angry with Hashem? How can we deal with that? Should we talk to Hashem about it? Help me understand. I know how I was vulnerable because it was my father's best friend who said, "Can you come over? Can your daughter come over? Help take care of my wife while I'm on business?" And really, he was not on business. His wife was convalescing out of town, and he was there when she and messed with her for 2 weeks. So what else is good about it? And start digging for what's good about it. But the most important piece before we can even get there is, where am I experiencing it? Oh, it's a memory. So how long does a thought last?
Split second.
As long as I think it. Split second, it can be just a split second. Or if I keep thinking about it and talking about it and I can't fall asleep about it. So who's generating? Who is giving life to that memory? I am. So the moment I realize, look, that man's not here, and I'm so careful from now, I'm going to be so careful. So once I know it's a memory, who controls my mind? He's not in the room telling me to think it, not playing a movie about it. No. So once I'm aware that this is what happened, and I am the producer of the movie from now on. So I don't have to go there. Once I get that empowerment, it's not from outside in, it's just a recognition of the way Hashem wired our minds. So that's what Rashi is saying, Hesach Hadas. Shomer Hadavara, he's guarding the bad thing that happened or was said to him. Ve'lo Hesach Madasa, he won't let it out of his mind. I'm remembering it, I'm guarding it, and I'm going to guard it till the grave. I'll never forget what that person did to me. Who's suffering? Who's not falling asleep tonight? So it's a process, but the first step is awareness that it's thought that is killing me. The person's not here anymore. The trauma is thought. And once I know it's thought, I can move on. Many Holocaust survivors, it was amazing when you ask them, why didn't you talk about it? It says, I was too busy building family. I was too busy raising children. I was too busy with my business, starting my business. I was too busy building community, building yeshivas, building schools, building Jewish community centers. They'll tell you that. It's astonishing. So that means the mind has the ability to deal with trauma in the most healthy way. And what's that? Don't think about it. Move on. The problem with this solution is it costs no money to say, stop thinking, stop talking. There's no money to be made in this solution.
You say that you're suppressing the old thing.
Right. That's why I say, maybe we should learn it inside. The Malbim on that pasuk, deflate it, says the Malbim, and he goes, it's like 2 columns of explaining why the suppression of that memory is how you are healthy. Because while I'm angry and irritable, he's saying what Rav Nachman was saying. in Sicha Saran, in Kufiyud Beis Kiev, he's saying, when I'm irritable, angry, and suffering, that's not the time to get into trying to understand it. I got to get into zone 3. I got to be in Mochen to Godlos, which is Simcha, and then I can talk about it. But Kozman, I don't want to get out of zone 2. And he talks about it, Kuf Tzadik Dalet. He says people want to stay in their Yisurim. They don't want to diminish it. Kuf Tzadik Dalet. I think we've mentioned it before. Kuf Tzadik Dalet. It's so simple and so powerful. That's what I'm looking at the page numbers. Kuf Tzadik Dalet. Sorry. Here. Ama achakola Yisurim. After all the sufferings. Afal Pichen, Hashem Yitbarach Meiti Vimanu. Hashem's still good to us. Get focused on that. Rak she'ein anu roitzim lahaktin et hayisurim. I don't want to minimize the Yisurim. So I'm going to talk about it. You don't understand. It's much worse than I'm even able to explain. Oh no, don't you understand? And then before you know, I'm a basket case. And we celebrate that and glorify it and pay for it. For heaven's sake. Every human being is living inside mental health, just doesn't know it. Because I'm one thought away. I'm always one thought away. One hero of Teshuvah, and it's not Machshava. Machshava and hero are two different things. They're translated the same way, but Machshava is from the word shav. You're settled, so you're thinking deliberately. Hero is from the word har, or herayon, which is pregnant, protruding. Har is a mountain. Up, down, up, down, up, down, like a mountain range. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Hihurim is a what do you call it? Fleeting thought. And machshava is thinking. It's deliberate thinking. And that's a different type of thinking. So hihu ra and a hihu of teshuvah, one thought of teshuvah, one fleeting thought of teshuvah, that is huge, because that will give a person eternity. He may have to pay a horrible price for all the rest of his life, but one year of teshuvah already was worth coming into this world for. It's very difficult for us to comprehend. That's how Hashem looks at the price of everything. It's a completely different value system. I'm sorry, you had your hand up, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to know, why do our thoughts have so much power? I know it's speech. Hashem created the world through speech.
Yes.
So where is the power of thoughts? I understand the byproduct of thinking good thoughts and negative thoughts, what it could spiral into. Where is that thought coming from?
It's coming from a neshama. A neshama is the most powerful part of our entire being, and it's the power. The neshama powers the mind. The mind is what powers their thinking. So it's really, that's why it's the most valuable item. Rav Nachman in Mem Vav in Sicha Suran, he talks about the further up the body you go, the further you can reach. So you can kick a ball so far, you can throw even further, going high up your body. Your mouth can scream, you can hear echoes off the mountains. You're higher than your mouth, you can smell from many, many miles away. Here, you can even hear echoes from many miles away. You get to your eyes, OMG. You can see stars light years away. That's incredible. It's a huge jump. Then he says, but when he gets to your mind, there are no barriers. That's why you got people who are real tzaddikim, that in their mind, like the Baal Shem HaKadosh. So he was able to see thousands of miles. Because there were no barriers with that type of eyesight. Rav Nachman talks about it in Reish Nun Dalet. I'm just giving you away my simanim. Reish Nun Dalet, I think of the word round. So I think in Harry Potter there was what's his name? Something-eyed Moody. So he could see from the back of his head. So in Reish Nun Dalet, Rav Nachman talks about the power when a person's mekadesh his eyes. He can see things that ordinarily the eyes you cannot see. But really the eyes see these things all the time. It's just that because we don't we allow taivas to take over our lives, so we don't realize the ruchnias that's taking place. He brings that in Kuf Lamed Gimel, college. I'm just giving you my simanim. If a person goes to college, it's going to ruin his mind. If a person in Kuf Lamed Gimel, it talks about when I let my mind and focus too much on Olam Hazeh, so I can't see the brightness of Olam Emes that's taking place. So he gives the mashal from the Baal Shem HaKadosh of a coin in front of my eye, and I can't see a huge mountain in front of me. The mountain is huge, yeah, but I can't see it because I put Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh is like blinding me. I'm so stuck in Olam Hazeh. That's what Mitzva Gedola is B'Simcha is Olam HaCherus. Get me out of... Cherus means I'm freed. I'm not chained to Natira, remembering other people's crimes against me. I'm not chained to anger. I'm not chained to jealousy. I'm not chained to Nakama, desire to take revenge. So it's a freedom. It's the ultimate liberation that's taking place over here. So the mind is everything. We got mitzvahs, ma'asos, we have to do tzitzis, tefillin, shofar, sukkah, lulav, etc. But the kavanas that we have, when I'm not talking about kavanas, but just I'm doing this because I want to give you pleasure, Hashem, because you gave me this mitzvah, and this is what separates me from all the world. Asher ki yideh shanu, you separated us, but mitzvahs are with your mitzvahs, and you gave me this mitzvah. So it's all really taking place over here, and when we do it with simcha, it's 1,000 times worth more. If it's very hard, that's 100 times worth more, because mitzvah echad b'tzar is mutav memeh shelo b'tzar. So you start all these multipliers, and it's really dependent on what I'm thinking. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Did I answer your original question? So it's all taking place here. I'm sorry I didn't get as far as I wanted to get. I hope, maybe I meant to ask if we'll put out the Kutimon, so if I do cross-referencing, can look at it inside instead of hearing me say it outside. That way anyone who wants to can see it. But I think the zone 1, 2, and 3 is an elegant way to start looking at a lot of the Torahs that Rabbeinu was telling me, don't get stuck in zone 2. Go straight to Chirus. Go straight to Simcha. And it's one thought away. We're never stuck. Ever. And Yush is a complete dimion. That is the biggest... Depression is the biggest dimion of all. It's simply not reality. There's so much good I'm not counting that I get stuck over here and I look at my garden, it's all weeds. How did I get there? Well, I'm watering the weeds. Watering the weeds every day.
Up to you.
Brilliant. Skaya.
Up to you.
Do you have an extra copy of the 600?